It's 7:44. Let's go through some of the day's headlines with our senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, and former Conservative advisor, Claire Pearsall. Good morning to you both. Nigel, let's kick off with it. It's a video from Twitter, or X, showing this sort of art installation in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, which is actually extremely moving. That it basically shows a table with 200 empty seats to symbolise the hostages that are being kept by Hamas in Gaza. I mean, obviously, it's good news that the American mother and daughter, Judith Rahnan and Natalie, who was 17, have been released. That's a start in the right direction. But when you look at something like this, you can see just the sheer scope of it. With 200 people there, and this is kind of, I think, it's a more moving equivalent to the old yellow ribbons that we used to put out for hostages.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? 200. It's just a number. You actually sort of need to see it in that sense.
Well, you see it like
that. See how many it
actually,
is.
I've seen a different video of the same installation where they'd actually got wine bottles along and everything, and I thought that's what should happen on Shabbat. These people should be together, celebrating together, and have not been able to do so. Every chair you're seeing there, long row, every chair represents somebody who hopefully is still alive and needs to be released.
But it is quite beautiful that you have all of them on the one table rather than sort of separate tables. It's everybody coming together, and I think it's always the symbolism behind these kind of installations which is the really poignant part. And it is awful, and nobody can say anything other than that. But that level of hope that you still have to have is quite beautiful.
Do you know, I was also moved when President Biden actually spoke to the two who have been released overnight, the mother and daughter, who are American citizens, and he said, the White House will help you in any way we can through your recovery, because how do you recover from something that must have been so unutterably terrifying, not knowing whether they were going to live or die or what was ever going to happen to them.
And quite what they've been through during that is...
Well, you will have PTSD immediately after something like that.
I don't know how you'd ever really get over that. It's something you'd live with.
Meanwhile, Claire, in the Mail, it claims the BBC is going to change its language in relation to this.
Well, yes. So without issuing any sort of apology, they've done this very quietly. The BBC has dropped the use of the word militants when it is referring to Hamas, and will now call them a proscribed terrorist organisation. So this has taken 2 weeks.
Terrorist.
That would do. That would be an accurate phrase also.
Yes, but they're not doing that. They're saying proscribed, aren't
they?
They're
saying a proscribed terrorist
So they're making the point that it's not us, the BBC, saying they are terrorists, but we acknowledge now.
Yes, that's basically it, yes.
It's this use of language, isn't it? And you just sort of think, when it is so clear-cut, we know they're a proscribed terrorist organisation. We get that. We understand that. Everybody knows that. And what they have carried out terrorist atrocities, and it's taken the BBC 2 weeks and a lot of people moaning at them for them to change their language, and they've done it very quietly, and it's a kind of sorry not sorry method, and they put out this very long explanation as to why they do these things. But realistically, I think people just want the news, and they just want these words to be used and words to be out there that are correct.
And what it needs to be is the BBC's editorial guidelines, where this comes from, really does need to be reviewed, because the argument is that terrorist is a loaded word, in the same way that freedom fighter would be a loaded word if you use that. Now, in certain situations, it's not obvious whether somebody is a terrorist or whatever. So the editorial guideline is there for good reason. But once you've actually, as Claire just said, it's clear-cut that is an act of terror, surely the perpetrators are terrorists.
It really isn't difficult. They've wrapped themselves up in unnecessary red tape with this one.
Yeah.
OK, let's change tack, should we? And back to the Tamworth by-election. And why, you may ask? Let's have a look at this. This is a clip, I think, of Jane Cooper, who is the Conservative candidate's wife.
The last chance to learn, Andy Cooper, the next MP for Tamworth. He laughs, but I'm serious. I only have a back winners. Anyway, now you see him as Andy Cooper. Next time as MP Andy, right?
Yeah, if you say so, Thea, if you say so. I'll take that any day.
And I always get what I want, because I'm that kind of a girl.
Ooh. Exactly. I think that probably goes down as the unwisest video of the year. And she
obviously she put out on her social media platform, did she?
Yes.
Before the result.
Before the result. So when the result came in, so I think that the message to everybody is just don't do things like that. There's no point trying to prejudge something or being triumphalist beforehand, because it's all going to. It could all backfire on you, as it did in this case.
Oh, I have to say,
not impressed.
I'm really not impressed with that. Just by, he didn't say anything, but I thought she was. I'm glad she's not an MP's wife. Do you know what I mean?
But that's the really important. If you are standing for election, then you are in the public eye and you are under scrutiny. But equally, so are your family. And you just have to behave, not go around pretending that you're in Love Island or you're doing an audition tape for a talent show. It's really unseemly. I'm sorry. This is a democratic process.
And so the whole I get what I want.
Yeah.
No.
No, I mean, everything about it is a no-no. Even if he'd won, in fact, it would have been a no-no. They would have been saying, oh, it was the wife that did it.
Yeah, and I just think there needs to be a little bit of understanding that this is a democratic process. This is really important. Please don't treat it as some kind of
being a member of Parliament surely demands of you a certain dignity, not just from you, but from your family.
It absolutely does, and it is it's a privilege to be able to serve a community, whether you are a parish councillor, whether you are an MP. It is an absolute privilege, and that is your job. And you don't go around treating it as if you've just been to the pub and you're walking down the street a little bit worse for wear, which is how that came across.
And you're making the assumption you're going to win.
Yeah, and I think arrogance always plays a part in this, and you can be excited about something, you can be positive about something, but just don't put it out there in that manner. It just...
She did come across as arrogant, actually.
It did.
And families need to step back a little bit. When Claire was an elected representative, I'd always walk 3 steps behind her, rather like Prince Philip.
Well, you should do that anyway, now. I'll tell you what, no wonder Andrew Cooper ran off the stage then. After he was
running away.
Clearly hiding from Mrs Cooper, I should think. Claire?
Yeah.
Blue shirts and chinos.
I loved this story. This is the student union. Cardiff University has banned men from turning up in chinos and blue shirts because they say that it attracts a bad level of behaviour within the student union.
I thought it was quite a smart way to dress that.
Well, apparently they're all the sort of rugby characters.
It's normally associated with rugby and other sports clubs. This is almost a sort of informal uniform of a beige pair of chinos, blue shirt and sometimes a tie, indicating which sporting club they come from. But also, I've found, this is anecdotal, a number of young Conservatives also rock around in the same kind of outfit, so they could be mistaken. I'm sure their behaviour is not anywhere at this level.
The outfit of Hooray Henrys, then, or something?
Yes, of badly behaved individuals in a student union. And apparently, since they have banned the outfit, behaviour has improved. Now, I'm not convinced that it's anything to do with a pair of chinos and a blue shirt. It is just to do with
the bad behaviour.
The bad behaviour.
And I wonder if you get round the ban by sort of wearing a pink shirt with your chinos or something like that.
Looking even more like a Tory member.
OK, I'll avoid that one.
Would that be even worse? Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear, we better talk about Viagra, Nigel.
Well, indeed, yeah. This is a great reason to take it as well. Just passing it over to Claire.
Please.
It's too early in the morning for this.
Anyway, apparently that there is a study in New York has discovered that taking Viagra cuts your risk of Alzheimer's by 60%. That it blocks a particular enzyme in the brain, and it was a study of 27,000 people over 65s. So it's obviously quite a
20,000 people. That's a big study, then.
Yeah, which is obviously quite a serious study. Yeah. The only thing about it is that as the sun as the Sun points out at the end, there's another study from Michigan which says that regular sex also protects you against dementia. So it's a bit difficult to know whether it's the Viagra or the regular sex.
Yes, but what it would be on both cases, surely, is just about blood flow, isn't it? Because that's what Viagra is all about, isn't it?
It is.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, originally, it wasn't brought out as any sort of a sex aid
Diamond.
medication.
No,
it
but
was
this is
something to do with blood flow,
But this
wasn't
blocks
it?
an enzyme.
Yeah, all right,
It's
it
about
blocks an
enzyme
enzyme.
blocking. It's not about blood flow.
No, but that's
Honestly,
the
Nigel, I thought
Alzheimer's
she was a
bit.
professional. I did.
But hang on, does having regular sex block the same enzyme?
I don't know.
More research needs to be done on this.
More research
backing
needed.
out of
But I mean, I actually think that really is fascinating, because anything in the fight against Alzheimer's, even though at the moment we're giggling about the fact that it's Viagra, there may be something really important.
Yeah, it is.
absolutely.
It's a serious thing to
Yeah.
deal with, yeah.
Oh, yes.
It says you smiling.
The reality is, because it can be quite cheap, actually, sildenafil or whatever the generic is, that we're all good to just be getting it. So you're 65 now, here's your regular Viagra, and just take that every day. And
Take it along with your statins and your aspirin and everything else. I mean, they're going to be wandering around rattling. Yes, the serious message is that it is great if it does help with Alzheimer's, which is a really, really hideous way to live. So anything that does that, but it just shows also that these drugs that come out on the market have more than one use.
Yeah.
it'll be the only regular pill men are willing to take at that age, I
Yes.
can tell you. Thank you both. We'll catch with you a little bit later on. Oh, dear me. Look, all the top stories heading away in just a moment.